Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Man Cave. Happy Thursday. And Jeff, how's it going?
Yep, I'm doing.
And Tanya. Ryan, glad you could be here with us tonight. Oh boy, it's been a week. I know Tanya's had a rough week. Tanya's had to be in early every morning this week, and it's the first week back after a couple weeks off. Andy, glad you could make it with us. Excellent. Sean, nice. All right. I'm looking forward to my bourbon tonight because we're going to talk a little bit about uh, bourbon here to kick things off. I got a story to tell you that's kind of intriguing. Russ, hey, Russ, glad you could make it in here. Russ Jones, the Smoky Ribs Barbecue. Another Russ, golf griller. Glad you could make it as well. Mike, good deal. We got a crew here. So, Tanya, I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to start off a little early here and talk about this bourbon right quick. All right. Uh, I made a post on the Man Cave Meals page earlier this week, I think, or late last week, about Bruzel, about this guy. His name is TJ Gamble, and I'm not sure exactly where he is, but I've been following him recently. I discovered him on TikTok, but he's on YouTube and he's on Facebook also, and he's a bourbon guru in my opinion. He's and in my novice experience with the world of bourbon in the last couple of years, I'm always looking for good sources of information, and this guy seems to know what he's talking about. He's been quite informative to me. I've listened to him a lot. I've listened to him talk about some bourbons I've had, and he's able to put things into words that I can't yet, just simply because of my inexperience with bourbon. And uh, yesterday or the day before, he was talking about Wild Turkey 101. And that I went yesterday. I went and picked up a bottle of this on his recommendation. Dadgummit, hang on a second. Don't you love it how that happens? Right in the middle of me doing something, Google decides to sign me out. So let me get signed back into Google. Uh, this will take me just a second. Okay. Anyway, he was talking about how good a bourbon this is, and it's a $25 bottle of bourbon. I paid $26.95 for it at my local shop. This Wild Turkey 101, and the reason I bought it is because I was listening to him talk about it. He did a recent review on his YouTube channel of this bourbon, and he talked about it for, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes, talked about his tasting notes, and he went through it. And here he gives it a score based on these five categories that he likes to judge his bourbon by: the aroma, the flavors, the complexity. The complexity and the flavors to me are kind of go together. And then he's talking about mouthfeel and finish, and the finish is kind of like an aftertaste. He gives it a score of 29 out of 50, which you might say, well, that's not all that great. And you know, 29 out of 50 is not a real high score, but in his uh, in his greater scheme of things here on his tasting or on his scoreboard, when you look at where he's placed this Wild Turkey in comparison with some of the other things that he's run through his judging process here, it's pretty impressive because he's got it ranked above Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Woodford Reserves, Distiller Select, and Blanton's. And Blanton's is a single barrel. and he's got this wild turkey ranked slightly higher than all of those, and he's got the same score as the Bullet 10-year and the Michter's Toasted Barrel, which I've had the Bullet 10-year. I haven't had the Michter's Toasted Barrel, but when I saw this, when I saw him review this, I decided, I said, I'm going to run down and get a bottle, because this is one of those bottles that you can get anywhere. Uh, it's not hard to find. Uh, if you go to your local liquor shop, you should be able to find this, and it should be priced somewhere in the realm of $25 for a 750 ml bottle. So I had a little bit of this last night just to get a taste of it to see what I thought, and I was pretty impressed with it. So that's going to be my pour for tonight. And so the other part of this story is, first of all, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
What are you having tonight, Jeff?
Number 7.
The guys at my local liquor store, it's about a mile and a half from the house here. It's close, and I'm in there kind of frequently, as you might imagine from the stack behind me over here. But when I showed up at the counter with that, I got a stink eye from one of the older gentlemen that works there that's another bourbon enthusiast. He says that's a little bit substandard for what you normally buy. And I told him the story. I told him about the review I had seen, and it impressed me enough that I wanted to give it a try. And I said, I'm trying to figure out if it's possible to have a good bottle of bourbon that's not expensive. And he lit up when I told him that. He says, I'm glad somebody finally is asking that question. He says, first of all, that wild turkey's pretty good. But then he said, this old granddad's only $20. It's a $19.95 bottle. He says this is better than the old granddad, than the wild turkey 101. The old granddad, this one's bottled in bond, so it's 100 proof. And what I'm going to do is, just so I can see, is I'm going to have just a little splash of that so I can taste it and see if I think it's better, worse, or whatnot than the wild turkey. Jeff, have you ever had either one of these?
I've had Wild Turkey 101.
What do you think?
It's not bad. I mean, it's
So Jonathan Edwards in there says he has some 101 right now. I'm curious if there's anybody else in here that's had it. So I'm going to try a little sniff of this old granddad bonded and see what I think. Okay. Well, Paul, you said your father liked old granddad. Yeah. Andrew, I don't do mixed drinks, so I'm not really, I don't really know. Now, this old granddad, to me, first thing I want to say about it is it's a smooth drink. It's the flavor, the flavor complexity of the old granddad's not anywhere near the wild turkey, I don't think. Uh, it's it's not as good. And I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit down with a glass of that and experience maybe a 2 ounce drink of that before I can make up my mind on that one. If any of you others had old granddad and the wild turkey 101, I'm not familiar with straight edge. Andrew, glad you could make it in with us. I do know that this wild turkey is something I'll buy again. Um, TJ's review on that in Bruzel. Let me bring that back up in case you missed it. He put it he in line with some of the other stuff he's done his own ratings on. He puts it above a lot of things that you wouldn't expect it to be above. Blanton's, uh, I think MSRP on Blanton's is $79 or $89 a bottle. I don't know about Woodford's Reserve. I've never bought it. Eagle Rare is only a $40 bottle, and Buffalo Trace is only a $30 bottle.
All right, John. Well, the bottom line question is, do you rank it higher than Eagle Rare?
Personally, for me, no, I would not. But this is a good example of how tastes vary. I like the Eagle Rare dramatic. I won't say the Eagle Rare is dramatically better than the Wild Turkey 101, but I like the flavor profile. The Eagle Rare, okay, one of the things I did learn about the Wild Turkey and the Old Granddad both yesterday is that they are what's considered rye forward. Both of these are. And I typically am not a big fan of rye forward. So that being said, the rye forward bourbons have a spicier note. And the Wild Turkey has a bit of a cinnamon to it. I didn't catch the cinnamon in the Old Granddad, but I definitely catch it in the Wild Turkey. But those notes do not exist in any of the mash bill #1 stuff from Buffalo Trace. The Buffalo Trace mash bill #1 is not got hardly any rye in it, or it's a lot lower percentage. These are 12 to 14% rye, and I think the rye percentage on the Buffalo Trace mash bill #1 is probably at 8% or less. So these two probably have twice as much rye in them as the Buffalo Trace stuff from that line. Buffalo Trace is not one. I bypassed two opportunities to buy Buffalo Trace here in the last couple of weeks. I'm just not a huge fan of that. I like the Eagle Rare though. So, and they're all from the same mash bill. They're all just treated a little differently. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about on the bourbon tonight. I found a $25 bottle of bourbon that's going to be a keeper. It's one I'll keep around. This Old Granddad may get relegated to cooking, and that way it's not a loss. You know, I'll put it over there on the stovetop with the other bourbons that I cook with. If any of you guys have had both of these, I'd love to hear about it. Andrew says he enjoys Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare is hard to find. It is. I've got a pretty good supply of it at the moment, but I'm not looking for any. Russell's Reserve 10. Yeah, that's one I want to try, and that one's not hard to get either. That one, I saw that one on the shelf, and maybe I'll try that one soon. We'll see. I'm not really looking at this point to expand my inventory into a bunch of new stuff. I'm pretty happy with the stuff that I have, but the stuff, yeah, Randy, I'll get the Woodford. I'll have a look into that because it's always down there. There's some they've picked up a really long line of Old Forester at my local shop, and I haven't tried any of those yet either. So yeah, Lance, it's got to be for $20. I've had more expensive bottles than that Old Granddad that I didn't like as well. So yeah, okay. Well, that's where we are on bourbon. So we had a technical glitch, and I don't have Jeff's cooking photos for this week, so we'll save them for next week and look at them along with anything else he does. But this week, guys, I decided after our conversation last week, I decided to get on the pizza project. I told you I was going to do 12 new pizza videos. in 2023. I figured I'd just go ahead and knock the first one out. And my first objective was to make a really nice thin crust pizza, because my wife and I both like thin crust pizzas, and there's some challenges that you're getting ready to see in making pizzas. I've had a bad day, guys. You're going to get to see a blooper. I botched my video today, so I'm not going to have a new cooking video this week simply because I screwed up. But anyway, let's talk about this thin crust pizza. I've been reading in the Modernist Pizza books that I bought a while back. So this pizza has been quite heavily influenced by some of the stuff I've read in the Modernist Pizza series. And one of the influences is an ingredient in the dough that I've never put in pizza dough before, and it's a very small addition of cornmeal. Some finely ground cornmeal went in that. But we'll talk about this. I wanted to do a poolish, so I made a poolish. I was getting that together in the picture here, and you can see it. If you can see in there, there's a really tiny amount of yeast. This is 4 or 5 1/100ths of a gram of yeast. It's about a quarter of a pinch. If you pick up a pinch between your thumb and forefinger and drop it down and divide it into four lots, this is about one lot of that. And I'm not going to get into how I calculated how much yeast I needed. I'm just going to have you agree with me that this was the right amount for the poolish. So I mixed up a poolish with equal amounts of flour and water and that small amount of yeast. I think I used about 30 grams or so of flour and water, and I just mixed that up in my little bowl here and put plastic on it and let it sit for 16 or 18 hours. I'll let it sit till the next day. Okay, that next day was Wednesday. And Wednesday, I decided I ran into a problem. We had horrible rain here all day Wednesday, and I decided I didn't want to cook outside on Wednesday. So I mixed up the dough, and what I decided to do, I made enough dough to make 3 pizzas, and that's the dough ball. And then I just divided that dough ball into 3 pieces. And at that point, I decided I was going to. I'm missing a picture here. Since I didn't want to cook, I decided, well, we're just going to cold ferment that for 24 hours. So I put these balls in containers. I greased them and put them in containers and tossed them in the refrigerator for 24 hours or so. I got them back out. I got one of them back out of the refrigerator at about 1 o'clock today, because Tanya was planning to be home around 5. And I wanted it to have time to come up to room temperature and finish its proof. So I did that. And then I set, while that was going on, I set my Kamado Joe up. And for those of you who may not have ever seen me do this, I wanted to show you how I set up the Classic to cook pizzas. There's another missing picture. My pictures are out of order. There's the picture of it in the container. I don't understand this. I used a fairly full basket of hardwood lump charcoal. It's not completely full, but it's got a good bit in it. And I used 3 fire starters, and I lit all 3 of those and let them burn for a couple of minutes. And then I put the accessory rack in the top position. I don't like using my grill grates when I'm cooking pizza, because extreme temperatures or very high temperatures will induce rust on your grill grates. And I don't really care if the accessory rack rusts. So I set that up there, and I did put the heat deflectors on the accessory rack. And I've got a couple of nuts there that have like the built-in washer. I don't know where I got these, but they give me maybe 3/8 of an inch. So what I did next was set the pizza stone on top of those washers where I've got a gap. I've got a gap between the heat deflectors and the pizza stone, and that gap allows you to keep the pizza stone from overheating. Back in the day when Kamado Joe was young, their manual and instructions, the, we didn't have the accessory rack at that time either. We just had the single grill grate, but their instructions for cooking a pizza was to set your heat deflector up on the accessory rack. And at the time, it was a single piece heat deflector. You set it on the accessory rack and then set the pizza stone directly on top of it. And then their directions were bring the grill up to a certain temperature and throw your pizza on there. That works pretty well for one pizza, but the longer you've got that running, the hotter that top stone gets. And this gap between the two keeps that pizza stone from ever getting more than 50 to 75 degrees hotter than ambient temperature in the grill. It's a really good setup. And the dojo, for those of you who have the dojo, you know how it works. You put your heat deflectors in there and then the pizza stone, and it provides the gap just like this. I don't think its gap's quite that big, but it's enough of a gap to keep your pizza stone from getting out of control hot. So I got this up, and I was planning to cook it somewhere between 5 and 550. So I got the grill up and running, and after it had gotten preheated adequately, I got my dough out. And this dough ball, each of these dough balls that I have weigh about 200 grams, which is slightly smaller actually than a dough ball that I would typically use for a 12-inch Neapolitan pizza. But that 200 grams, when you roll it out with a rolling pin for a super thin crust pizza and roll it out to 14 inches, you get a really, really thin crust. And that was my target here. So this is what that dough looks like rolled out. And then I just topped it very commonly. I put some pizza sauce on it. I put some grated whole milk mozzarella and pepperoni. And then I scooped it up here, as you can see, onto my metal pizza peel. And then I went to the grill with it, and bam, I had a little accident unloading my pizza from the peel. And I knew better than to do what I did. I wasn't really thinking that hard about it. Since I was making video, I said, well, I'll just load it with the perforated peel. And these super thin crust pizzas are hard to deal with. You need to have either a lot of flour, and really what needed to happen here is I needed to build that on a piece of parchment paper, because that crust was so thin, and you're going to see how thin it is here in a minute. But I made a mess out of it. And at this point, I was shooting video when I launched that, and I just shut the camera off, and I said, okay, this one's a bust, so we're not going to have this video this week. But anyway, I decided, well, I've come this far, so let's go ahead and cook it. So I went ahead and cooked it. And here's right before I took it off, you can get an idea of how thin this crust is. And yeah, my pizza stone is broken, and I put it back together with JB Weld. But guys, that is the original pizza stone that I got with my first classic Kamado Joe. This one's actually still got the Kamado Joe logo on it. Jeff, are the new pizza stones don't have the logo on it, do they?
I think they do. Mine does, and it's not that old.
Does it?
So
Okay.
I'm thinking it still does. Either that or I got lucky and got one with the logo on it.
Somewhere around here, I do have another pizza stone, I think, because I got a stone with the classic dojo. So there might be another pizza stone around here somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. But I repaired that one with JB Weld, and it's working just fine. But here's the top view of my defective pizza. So it doesn't look good. However, I decided, well, I'm going to try it. And here's another picture of the edge crust. And this is what kind of a profile picture. You can see how thin that crust is. I should have taken time to get a little bit closer up picture of this crumb, because this is a really good crumb on this pizza. And there's what the bottom looked like. That doesn't really show off the bottom. The bottom was perfectly cooked. These pizza slices had a consistency just like you would want. They would not flop over and fold on you. They they held right where they should have. Uh, and yeah, Norm, it was good. And just to talk about that, I'm gonna bring Tanya back because I had Tanya. Tanya's a connoisseur of fine pizza and
And bad pizza too.
bad pizza. Yeah, she doesn't hesitate to let me know when my pizza's not good. And she and I have butted heads a few times over pizza. So I'll let Tanya tell you what she thought about this pizza.
Well, I thought it was absolutely delicious. I'm not usually a particularly huge fan of thin crust because it's really difficult to get it right. But this was perfect. I could actually pick it up. It held up as a piece. I didn't have to revert to being a savage and using a fork and a knife to eat pizza.
Mhm.
And so I was really happy with that. And I ended up really enjoying it. I mean, the only thing I added to it, honestly, was crushed red peppers because y'all know I love those. So I hit it
Right.
with that. And it was delicious. The crust had a good crisp to it. It was crunchy, and it had a really really good taste to the dough. You could tell that it had definitely, been retarded in the refrigerator.
Yeah, this the
That
combination
so
of the
much taste to dough.
yeah, the combination of the Polish and then the 24-hour cold ferment made a. I've never done that before, and I didn't know if the cold ferment was going to hurt me or not because this technique was not really the amount of yeast I put in this dough was not. It was a little more than I would have normally wanted to put in to go on a cold ferment, but it turned out beautifully. The flavor was off the hook. It was really good. And Sam, that I cooked at 525 ish, 550, and that was about a 5 minute long cook for that pizza. And for those of you that know pizza dough already, that was a 70 or 71%, somewhere between 70 and 71% hydration dough. And Norm, I have most of the. I did not use homemade pizza sauce today, but I normally do. I needed a pizza sauce today that was a cooked sauce rather than a uncooked sauce, and I didn't want to take the time to make one. But
Well, I'm
I
telling
used
you, that was the flavor was really, really good. One of the top bakeries in Paris, uses a similar approach. They use the Polish like John made, and then they let it. The Polish itself is made before they make their their bread for the day, and then they add it in, and it's a very interesting technique. And yeah, you wouldn't think that it would really matter, but boy, you can really taste the difference. It's just got
right.
this flavor that I can't really explain to you, but it's absolutely fantastic.
I think the cornmeal added a sweetness to that dough that I'm not used to tasting, and that the cornmeal edition is something I picked up out of this modernist pizza series that I bought. I bought this set of books. I had some Amazon credit a while back and decided I was going to blow it on that. And I've had a good time reading in there. And Lance, that's one of the big things, the big questions about pizza is how do you know how hot you can cook a particular dough? And my answer to that is the same all the time. First of all, if you bought the dough, it'll tell you how hot you can cook it on whatever on the package. And the people get themselves in trouble, don't they, Jeff? When they throw a Publix dough or a Kroger dough or a Walmart dough in a Neapolitan heat oven. Jeff, have you ever scorched a pizza dough?
No,
No,
I
I know I have.
You
I've
know
know,
I
scorched
have, John.
tomatoes. I've
oh
scorched
my gosh,
homemade dough.
Jeff, do you know that sometimes I pull for like DOOK? No,
Well, let me tell you,
absolutely not. That's about like saying that you've never scorched a pizza.
Lance, if you want to make pizzas that you can cook at higher temperatures, you need to make your own dough. There's 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 a couple of variables that I'll hit on just briefly here without going into a lot of detail. You need to understand baker's percentages, and that way you'll know how much water. Uh, when I said that the dough is 70% hydration, what that means is if I've got my 100% ingredient is always the flour. So let's say, for instance, I've got a kilogram or 1,000 grams of flour in my dough. That means I'm putting 700 grams of water in it. That's a 70% hydration, or it's 350 grams of water in a 500 grams of flour. That hydration is about as high as I ever go for pizza. But Neapolitan doughs, and also if you're making a flour, water, salt, and yeast dough with just those ingredients, which most artisan pizzas are made that way, if those are the only ingredients you're using, a 70% hydration dough, you're not going to scorch it. You can cook about anything you want at any temperature you want with a 700 with a 70% hydration. You may not end up with the texture you want, but it will not burn it. Uh, if you're going to cook a Neapolitan style pizza, most Neapolitan style pizzas that are cooking at 800 or 900 Fahrenheit, those doughs are 60% doughs or 58% doughs even. Uh, and the reason that they're lower is because they're going to cook quickly. Those pizza cooks are anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. And if you put a 70% dough in that environment, it won't burn, but it also won't form the chew. It won't give you the texture that you're looking for. It'll come out a little soft. The top of the pizza will be cooked before the dough if you put a higher hydration dough in at 900 degrees. When you need the higher hydration doughs when you're cooking at lower temperatures, if that makes any sense. Like if I was going to make like a Sicilian style pizza where I'm going to put it on the Kamado and cook it at 450 or 500 degrees for 12 to 14 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, I need a higher hydration dough because that hot stone, I don't want it to, if I evaporate all the water out of my dough in 8 minutes while I'm waiting on my toppings to cook, I am going to scorch and burn that dough, and it's going to be rock hard and it's going to be black on the bottom. So there's a lot. I've spent a lot of time reading about this stuff, and I know Jeff has too. I've got several books. Uh, I might should have got the books out tonight. One of them is called The Elements of Pizza by Ken Forkish. It's a really, really good book. Uh, and then there's some pizza stuff in Ken Forkish's Flour, Water, Salt, and Yeast. But the Elements of Pizza is really a good place to be if you want to start reading about artisan pizza and the craft. He doesn't really get into sourdough so much. And but in a nutshell, if you're making the dough yourself, you can cook it at any temperature you want if you put the right amount of water in it. So in a nutshell, if you're going to cook, if it's going to be a 12 to 15 minute cook, you want a 70% hydration dough. If it's going to be a thin crust pizza, here's a break on that rule. My thin crust pizza needed to be higher hydration, even though it was a 5 minute cook, because of how thin the crust is. That water evaporates out quickly. But if you're going to do a thicker crust pizza, a typical like a hand tossed or even a pan pizza, you need more water in it because it's going to be in there for a long time. A 5 minute 700 pizza, you need to be at 65% hydration. And a 1 to 2 minute Neapolitan pizza at 800 plus, you need to be at 60% hydration. It's there. As the temperature goes up, the hydration comes down, but it's not just the temperature; it's also the cook time. So there's a lot of things there. Jeff, what am I missing there? What else could we
Well,
bring?
the only thing that I would add to that is for those of you who are starting out with pizza, I would stick around the 60% hydration. I think the dough is a little easier to work than going up to 70% hydration.
Well, I agree with that to some extent, but if you put a 60% hydration dough together and you're going to cook a pizza that's going to take 10 minutes or longer to cook, that dough is going to be extremely hard. It's going to be crunchy. Uh, but the lower hydration doughs are easier to handle. There's no doubt about that. But one of the things that maybe sometime I need to make a video on is I need to make a video sometime maybe on making dough and paying specific attention to the gluten formation in the dough. Because even if you're doing a higher hydration dough, like 70 or maybe even 75%, if you leave it, if you're mixing with a KitchenAid with a dough hook, if you're kneading with that, I need to show Jeff what the window pane test looks like,
Mhm.
and that way you can get a visual on when that dough's ready. Because even the higher hydration dough, it becomes easier to work with if you've got the gluten network built in it. If your gluten network's not there, the dough's going to get sloppy. It's not going to hold its form when you shape the dough ball. But the get getting the gluten network there is important, and those things are talked about in the books. The problem with the books is it's sometimes hard to get a feel for what they're talking about just from looking at a picture. A video of that may be worthwhile. It may be a good idea to make a like this dough. When I mix this dough, after I put the poolish in the mixing bowl and then put my water and all I did was I put the water, the flour, and the extra yeast in the mixing bowl. I left the salt out for this point. I mixed it up until I just had a shaggy dough ball. And no, Norm, the yeast does not affect the hydration. So once I had that shaggy dough ball, I turned the mixer off and I let that sit for about a half an hour. And I like to do this. This is called an auto lyse. And some people like to do it for an hour. Some people like to let it go for even 2 hours. And that allows the flour to fully absorb all of the
Mhm.
water you've put there. And also, while that flour is sitting there resting in that water, the gluten is starting to form, and it's going to give you a base gluten network to start working with when you actually start kneading it. Um, but then, after I let that autolyse period happen, I let it mix for 5 to 7 more minutes with the dough hook before I put the salt in. And then I put the salt in, and I probably let it go for 13 or 14 more minutes. This dough, I probably let it knead for nearly 20 minutes in total in the KitchenAid. And that once again was something that I got from here when it was talking about making sure I had the gluten network that I wanted with that window test. I've used that window test before when I'm making sourdough, when I'm kneading it by hand, when I'm stretching and folding at 30-minute intervals across 5 or 6 hours when I'm making sourdough. I'm looking for that there, but I never really thought about that so much in pizza, and I think I got a good result from that today. Uh, yes, Anthony, you can do it in a iron skillet. The pan you cook the pizza in is not really going to make any difference in whether or not you burn the pizza. Because I've done pan pizzas. These Lloyd pans, Jeff, have you got a Lloyd pan yet?
No, I got the USA pans.
Okay, well even the USA pans are thicker than the Lloyd pans, but they're still not as thick
No.
as a cast iron pan. So I've done pizzas in cast iron pans, and uh, I guess let me clarify that what causes a pizza to burn? It's either too hot or it's in there too long. There's
Or somebody put sugar in the flour, sugar in the
well,
dough.
small amounts of sugar can get there, but one of the things with a pan pizza is uh, there's you've got to know where the balance is between time and cooking temperature. If you're doing a pan pizza, pan pizzas typically cook for longer times at lower temperatures, like uh, I don't know, like a Chicago deep dish, for instance. Those things cook at 375 or 400 degrees for 45 minutes. Uh, have you done any of those, Jeff?
Yep.
Is that about your cook time on those, 30 to 45 minutes?
Yeah, right in that neighborhood.
And also in a Chicago deep dish pizza, you're putting a nice heavy, usually a heavy layer of oil in the bottom of that pan.
Mhm.
You're basically frying the bottom of that dough when you cook it.
Well,
So,
that's the thing, is you need to mention that you're preheating that pan before you put the dough in there.
uh, yeah. Well, I don't remember if I preheated that pan or not. I don't
I'll bet
remember.
you, I'll bet you did.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've done a Chicago deep dish. The last one I did was one of the best ones I've done, though, and
I'm just
it
sitting
would be.
here thinking it has been a while, honey, and you need to put 5 stars beside that because you know how much I love the Chicago
Yeah,
deep dish.
that's one of Tanya's favorites. But the last Chicago deep dish I did was on the Atlanta Grill Company YouTube channel. So, or you can go to the Man Cave Meals YouTube channel and look at my playlists and find it in the pizza playlist. Um, it it was one of the better ones I've made, and I've been looking at that technique here in the Modernist Pizza as well. So I'm looking forward to trying that again. Uh, but one of the things, pizza, one of the things I see about pizza in the Kamado world, most people don't want to be bothered with making the dough homemade, and I find that incredibly stressful, stressing to me. I wish I could convince everybody that it is worth the time and effort to make the dough yourself.
Definitely. The only time that I say do the store bought is if it's a spur of the moment. Hey, let's have pizza tonight. Well,
Yeah.
I don't have any dough made, so let's get some store bought dough and go for it. But I think the quality is far better when you're making your own dough.
Well, I Jeff, you know, because you and I spend a lot of time doing these baking projects together. I baking breads and stuff like this is my second passion to barbecue because
Hmm.
it's way more challenging than
Oh,
barbecue.
definitely, definitely.
If you think cooking a brisket's difficult and getting it consistently good every time, try sourdough bread. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of hands. I like having my hands on the dough, and I've learned from the time I've been doing it, things to look for and what that dough should feel like and what it should look like. And I've learned pretty well how to handle the high hydration doughs. In fact, Jeff, when I get ready to do another focaccia, I'm probably going to do at least a 75% hydration focaccia.
I tell you
I'm
what, that was some good eating when we were doing that.
Yeah, I'm trying to swing a spiral mixer. I've been looking at one, guys. So if if that pans out, I'm going to be extremely happy. Otherwise, I'm gonna I don't know. I don't. I found a spiral mixer that I'd like to have. That's $550. It's a lot less money than some of these other ones that are out there, and I know it's not quite as nice as some of the other ones that are out there, but it's good enough for what I'm going to do with it, which is going to be make pizza dough mainly. And those spiral mixers they're far superior even to a KitchenAid
Oh, definitely.
for kneading dough, especially if you've got a higher hydration dough. So
Andrew
Janice is,
just came in from Sweden.
yeah,
Look at
huh,
that.
nice. Andrew, glad you could make it. Janice is here too. Jason says they buy dough from their local pizza shop. I've heard of people doing that before, and I haven't tried that yet. And uh, I might experiment with that because one of the things I want to do in my 12 pizzas is I want to see if I can hammer down the the New York style pizza dough. I've only tried it a couple of times and I've been marginally successful with it. But Tanya, I think I could run up to Tony's probably and get them to sell me a ball of pizza dough. And I know their pizzas, their dough's heat resilient because I think they're cooking somewhere in the 600-degree range in those big flat ovens they've got. So,
Yeah.
Well, I know that you can order a pizza from them and request that it not be cut, and they'll honor that.
not be cut.
Yeah, because I use pizza to teach subnetting.
Oh, okay.
So we
Yeah.
have to
I
subnet,
like that idea.
and then we have pizza in class. So, like, one, it's a visual aid to
Mhm.
subnetting, and two, we get to have pizza in class.
Right.
I like that.
Well, I haven't read the New York pizza dough technique out of Modernist Pizza yet, but I will. And
Well, first of all, John, you gotta get some New York water.
well, that's what they all say. But in fact, the
Road
Modernist
trip.
guys, yeah, they pretty much call the BS on that. It's only the New Yorkers tell you got to have Hudson River water
Yeah.
to to make New York style pizza. So,
Maybe we can get somebody from New York to send us some through the mail.
well, I've had New York pizza, and I'm gonna tell you this. I've had a good bit of New York pizza in New York, but I've got a couple of pizza shops around here that are making every bit as good a pizza as those guys do. The places,
Oh, definitely. I mean, it all depends which shop you go to up in New York.
yeah.
If you go to Paul's, the coal-fired
Mhm.
ovens, his pizzas are off the frickin' hook.
Jeff, what's your favorite pizza crust style? Norm's asking.
Jeff Norm's asking. I like the Neapolitan.
Tanya, what's your favorite style of pizza crust?
Well, I like them. I like them all. Now, I'm going to put a little thing in here. I am not a big fan of the New York style,
Okay, nothing
but
wrong with that.
obviously, I love Sicilian style. Oh, give me that thick. I love the Detroit pizza. Yeah, I'm down with
Hmm.
the grandma pie. And you know that it's my habit to go to Chicago every couple of years so I can try a new deep dish pizza
Yeah,
place.
Nothing
I
wrong
like,
with that.
you
we
know,
hadn't been to Chicago in a while.
I
You've
know
been since I have.
it's been a while. No, I went to.
Yeah,
Remember, I took Holly on her. She graduated from
yeah.
college, and I took her to Pokemon Go Fest.
I didn't get to go to that though. I stayed home. And you went to Lou Malnati's that trip, didn't you?
Holy cow! Yeah, and it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I had Geno's East, I was like, "Holy, this is the stuff." And then
And
we tried what was it? The Giordano's.
Giordani's, something.
Giordano's.
Yeah,
And it was good
Giordano's.
too, but man, that Lou Malnati's, I just don't know if I was like extra hungry that day or what. But hot
Yeah.
dog, that was good.
And Norm, my favorite is the Detroit. I'm all about the Detroit.
That's my second favorite is the Detroit.
That's my first favorite. I
I
like
like
it
that
over
thick crust.
everything. Yeah, and Detroit, I'm thinking about some ways to up my Detroit game for whenever I get ready to do that. And in fact, I've got this new Lloyd pan that's an 8x10 that I haven't made. I bought it for making smaller Detroit style pizzas, and I haven't got around to doing that yet. But Tanya, that one Detroit's on the list, so we'll get it
Well,
done.
I'll be 100% honest. I even sometimes, full disclosure, sometimes I want that cheap Totino's pizza out of the
Yeah,
grocery store freezer. You know, sometimes
yeah.
I want a pizza
I,
made with
I'm
canned biscuits
I'm
or
with
fish
Tanya. I'm
muffins.
I like pizza. I like pizza really no matter where it comes from. Tanya and I are obvious. We're quite guilty of hitting Pizza Hut every now and then.
I mean, I love pizza. I love trying
Okay,
different pizzas.
Tanya, you have Aldi's there. Every now and then, walk in there and see if they have the Mama Cozy's breakfast pizza. It's made with biscuit dough,
Hmm.
sausage gravy. Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy, that's a good little pizza there.
I love it, and I'm gonna be 100%. I love school lunch pizza too. I John knows and can tell you that I've made big old batches of that here because I was just like, dang,
Well,
I want some school lunch
your
pizza.
school lunch pizzas must be better than the school lunch pizzas down from down here because I'd just as soon eat a piece of cardboard.
She
Well,
made one. She made one. She found a copycat recipe somewhere.
I
She
did.
made one on a half sheet pan, and it was perfect.
I like Newman's own too, and you know what?
Yep.
Uncured pepperoni, cured pepperoni, dude, pepperoni. I'm in.
Yep. So
I'll have to check out that Mama Rosa then. And
there's a pizza place. There's a pizza place down the road here that Tanya and I like called Moondog Pizza, and they make New York style pizza, but it's not. It's
it's not
it's not
floppy New York style pizza.
right. It's like a most of the New York pizzas that I get around, and one of the reasons they're so floppy is because they're huge. They're cutting slices off of these 26-inch wheels.
Yeah.
They're huge, but they the crust is cooked a little bit firmer at this place called Moondog, and they're really good.
Hmm.
So grits crust. I've not pursued that yet. Tanya and I have talked about it, and I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
you
that's
got to
going to work.
understand, I'm right at that perfect spot. The semester ended and my brain was dead, and
Yeah.
now the semester's beginning. So I'll be absolutely nuttier, 100% nuttier than normal for like the next 2 weeks or so. Norm, that was me last night. So, I had to get up early. So I watched State get up 15-0 on Duke, and I trusted that they were going to like stick with it. I was like, all right, Pack, don't screw this up on me. And I set a timer and I took a nap so that I could get up on time to watch Carolina. And
Mhm.
John comes up and he's like, hey. And I'm like, hey. I said, I could really kill some Totino's pizza rolls right now. And he's like, oh, do we have some? And I'm like, heck no. And I'm not going to the grocery store and getting them. But yeah, I know what you mean about that.
Brian's looking at a cutting board. Uh, Jeff is the woodworker here. Jeff, are you familiar with these two? I've got a teak house board. I've got two teak house boards that are ingrain boards, and I love both of them. But I bought both of those. They were on sale insanely inexpensively on Amazon when I bought mine, and they now cost 3 or 4 times what I paid for mine. Uh,
John, do you have that picture handy of what I just sent you today?
uh, Hang on a second. I can get there. Um, Let me pull it up. Jeff has put some cool things together here. Okay.
Thanks, Anthony. I had to like turn the TV off and come in here, so I didn't know how that game was ending. It was like, halftime when I came in here.
Jeff just made these.
Wow.
That's
Those are beautiful, Jeff.
thank you. That's pizza serving boards. Don't show off Jeff's work if we can't buy it. These are one-off items that I will never ever make them out of that wood again. I sent John pictures of what my shop looked like. It was not pretty, buddy.
What kind of wood is it?
That is African Paduke.
Is it really hard?
No, it's not. It's when you cut it, when you sand it, it is the most powdery sawdust,
Yeah.
and it goes everywhere. And I mean, I don't care how good a central vac system you got, it goes everywhere.
Beth says don't show us Jeff's work if we can't buy them.
Those were made. I wanted to make those. The one on the left is for Luca. wanted to make those look old school antique.
Yeah.
So you can't really see it from that picture, but when you're looking at them, you can see the joinery, whether it's put together, and the style is of an old school hand cut. And what I wanted to do, and then Kathy talked me out of it, is I wanted to take the black epoxy and I was going to route a ring around the edge. It's a 16-inch diameter. And Lucas says the biggest pizza he makes was 14. So I was going to do a 15-inch diameter ring in the black epoxy and then put cut rings in them.
Janice, Jeff doesn't have any snow.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you
That
going
was her point.
They don't get snow in Orlando.
to? Well, we did one time, but you could blow it off with the blower. Anyway, you take a look at that picture, the peeking to the right one, that one hasn't been finished yet. And these things are finished with mineral oil, food grade mineral oil. And you start with a 1200 grit pad and you go all the way up to a 15,000 grit pad.
Yeah.
So it takes a little while to do those.
I think somebody's commenting here on my Southern Star Paragon.
Yep.
Well, guess what? This bottle's got that much left in it, but you know what? Tanya and I have a refill on that. And also, somebody's got some good eyes if they could see that behind me on the video. I have a bottle of the double rye also. And yes, Southern Distilling is in Statesville, North Carolina, which is about 40 miles east of me. And I agree with you. That Paragon is a wheated bourbon, and it's a giant killer. It's an incredibly sublime wheated bourbon. So, and Lance, it's priced right too. That's a $70 bottle. Now they've got 3 varieties of Paragon that I just discovered this last week when we were down there. They've got a bottled in bond 100 proof, and they've got a 90 proof variant of it as well. I haven't tried either of those yet. The 2 that I have here are called cask strength, and the first cask strength one I got is 120 proof, and the cask strength one I bought last week is not anywhere near that. It's 107 proof instead of 120. It's a little bit lower proof, but the lady that was in the shop down there recommended that one over another one they had. She said that was one of the best tasting barrels that they had poured from. And these are single barrels. No, I don't wear. Janice, my mom and dad went. They were in They stopped somewhere in Mexico on a cruise, and they brought me this sombrero.
We also have hats from Germany.
Yeah, I don't wear it. It's on a Nefertiti bust back there.
It sure is.
That's a Queen Nefertiti bust back there that's got a sombrero on.
Hey, I found that for $15 at an antique store.
Yeah. Okay.
Setzler slices and shots. I like that, the 3 S's.
Okay,
Slices.
Sean, I got a few questions that people have asked me that I need to answer.
Okay, right, let's hit them.
Okay. First of all, how did my wood projects come out? Pretty good, except I had a problem with one of them in that I had made like 3 times the amount of connector pieces that I thought I needed, and that was unfortunately too short. But I've got one together. And I think it looks pretty cool. Let me see if I can. So here's one. Whee! Maybe I should do it sideways because they're rather large. It's a sign for my nephews. So I've got one in orange for Tristan. That's his favorite color. And the purple one for Xander. Like I said, again, the connectors totally, um, yeah, messed up. So they'll be
Those
getting
aren't
those a
wooden
little bit
though.
late. Everything else went really well. And so my brother's ex-wife and my brother's current girlfriend both loved their earrings. John loved his lens wipe box.
Hmm.
And so I made a mistake on the Constellation viewer, and I kind of glued the slides into the slide holder thing. So I got to get those out so he can look at that.
Hmm.
So overall successful, and Dad loved his mobile, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really balanced," and he like really thought that I had
And
skills.
guys, what she's talking about, my wife is in charge of a lab at the school where she works, and they've got a glow forge in there. So yeah, Jeff, I'm going to buy a cutting board. I need to pick out a good utility wooden cutting board, and I'm going to have my Man Cave Meals logo burn etched on there with this glow forge, and I've got to figure that out. Norm, I guarantee you, my wife's not drinking whiskey. I
Uh,
promise you.
I'm gonna tell you that it's Everclear.
Everclear. She got a bottle of water.
Yeah, I did. But if I'd known that you had the wild turkey down there, I would have picked up some Sundrop, and we would have had wild turkey and Sundrop.
Well, you're welcome to share this. While this stuff's at a price point where I don't mind sharing it with you. How about that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the last time that I drank something like that before we went on the Jack Daniel tour was, I think, I was a junior in college, and it was summer, and I was fixing to go to work, and so I fixed a thermos of wild turkey and Sundrop.
Hmm.
I took it to work and enjoyed my day getting sloshed.
So, what kind of oil do you use on those boards, Jeff?
Home Depot food grade mineral oil in the
Yep,
bottle.
yep.
And then
Janice,
those
it's been fun.
pads, you can get those pads at Rockler's. Comes in a set. It's 9 pads that go from 1,200 to 15,000.
Yep. I got to find a cutting board. I I need to find one that I like that'll fit inside that glow forge and still let the laser clear. I'll have Tanya get me the maximum dimensions of something that I can put in that thing. I'm probably going to buy something like uh, I don't know. I don't need another cutting board, but I want one with my logo etched on it.
Yeah, that would be
So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
Tanya, we'll have to find something.
I haven't got them finished yet, but I have made some pretty nifty little earrings here.
Yeah.
Cool.
So our school mascot is AB, and his name is Abe.
Abe for AB.
Yeah.
Yes.
You notice how I picked that up.
Yep. Well, I had to ask when I got up there. I was like asking our marketing guy. So he was this really cool guy named Colby who's into cryptids. And so I was like asking Colby one day, I was like, so do we pronounce it Abe or AB? And he looked at me so funny. He says, why would you call it AB? And I was like, oh, okay.
What's it say?
You
AB?
told-
I don't know. Why would I call it AB?
Brian, I like boards that are 2 inch thick. I've got a couple that are an inch and a half, but a 2 inch thick board is where I like to be. And I don't have a 3 inch thick board yet, but I'd like to have one. Uh, I really
Get
would.
yourself a chopping block if you're going to go 3 inches.
Anthony, you need to have a look at some of these teak house boards. The one I have that has a juice mode on one side of it's perfect, and I can't. I think the one I have is a 12 by 16. That's either I think it's 2 inches thick. It's got a juice mode on one side, but um, I like those also because most often when I'm using these boards, I'm putting cooked meat on them, and if I throw a rack of beef ribs on there, if I don't have the juice mode, I'm gonna have a mess. It's how that goes. So, uh, but there's cutting boards are just like anything else. There's inexpensive cutting boards and there's expensive ones, and there's some mid-range boards that are really good quality boards, and I think these teak house boards fall into that. Jeff, do you have a teak house board?
Nope.
Um,
All my cutting boards are like old, 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 old. I think probably all of them are older than me.
well, I just recently last week or Tanya, when did I go up to the school with you? When did we go to? That was before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was like the Thursday before Christmas.
Yeah, I bought myself a new plastic OXO cutting board that I really like, general purpose board. Yeah, I can
Old
tell.
school.
Yeah, that's nice. But I've got a couple of cutting boards that I have actually resurfaced. I've got a cutting board that was given to me 25 years ago. It's a very small one. It's like maybe 10 by 10 inches, but it's handmade and it's got some really exotic woods in it. And I have I use the thing so much that I have actually resurfaced it a couple of times. Jeff, I took a one of those mouse handheld sanders
Hmm.
and sanded it smooth again and re-oiled it and got it back looking new again twice since I've had it.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, on a serious note, if you go get those pads from Rockler and use that on that orbital sander, and you
Mhm.
go all the way through, that's going to have such a thick coating of mineral oil buffed into that thing, it's going to last a lot longer.
Yep. I think Jeff's going to tell you exactly how complicated it can be to do that.
I guess if you find a cutting board you like and doesn't have a juice mode, you have a router, you can make your own. You can make your own, but if you're making an end grain, which is what everybody really likes, end grain are a little bit more difficult to make because you're cutting them and then you're gluing them back together. So you're putting an odd number amount of planks together, so that when you glue them back together, you flip them every other turn, so that you have that dark light, dark light, dark light
Mm.
color, and you have that end grain. Then you have to glue it all back together. Then you run it through the planer, and then the real work begins. As far as a lot of people just sand it and oil it. If you
You
really
also
want to
have
do it right, you
you
need
have to
to.
build a jig to hold that board for the router to run around it too.
No, no, you got the router. All your routers will have a little attachment that goes on the plate of the router that
Yeah.
will allow you to adjust it so that the bit is
Hmm.
whatever distance you want from the edge, and you just put it
Okay.
on there and just run it all the way around. That's the
I
easy
just
part.
I would buy one with a juice mode in it.
Like I say, those boards that
Jeff, can you imagine what would happen if I tried to do that?
you can do it. The
Uh, Jeff's got faith in me, Tanya, that not many people have.
Well, I'll tell
those
you guys,
boards that you showed that I just did, those things I'm going to say are smoother than a baby's butt. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like right now you take water and the water just runs right off of it. I mean, it doesn't soak into it at all.
I'll tell you guys
David,
a
this
funny story.
David,
So
go ahead.
about 30 years ago, my dad and I were riding around in Old Red, which is his really old beat up pickup truck that will probably, survive cockroaches. At any rate, we were riding
You'll
around in
find
Red,
those.
and I was telling him, I was looking, I was like, Dad, I'm really looking to buy some routers so I can really start studying for my CCNA. And, granted, this is like 30 years ago or so. And he goes, "You need some routers, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I'd like to get three
I got a
routers,
garage full.
maybe three
Yeah.
switches." And my dad is just getting real quiet. And he goes, You know, I got a ton of them down in the basement. My dad was a carpenter, so.
Yeah.
So let's get back to talking about what's the best cutting board for fish.
Jeff, you want to hit that one first?
Plastic.
Mm. I think plastic might be the best, but I don't have any problem working with fish on my wooden cutting boards. I it's not it doesn't create a situation that I can't clean up with soap and water. I've never had any lingering scent on any of my wooden cutting boards from using fit cut working fish on them.
If you got them sealed good, with the mineral oil, you've got it sealed really nice. It's not going to, but I just prefer using a plastic one.
If you do get some sort of lingering aroma on a wooden cutting board, you're going to be able to knock it off with vinegar.
Yep.
So I don't think it's use whatever you like, but I got a plastic. I like the utility of a good quality plastic cutting board, and I just bought this OXO that it's a pretty nice board. I posted about it on the Man Cave Meals Facebook page uh, recently, so if you have a look at that, it's a really nice board, and it's a large. I have a smaller version of the same board that I've had for a long time, so have a look at that. Tanya, what else have we got?
Let me look through here. Brian is saying the old lemon wedge and salt
That works.
trick works.
I think people overthink the idea of fish in anything. And I constantly see stuff on the Kamado forums about people are afraid to cook fish in their ceramic Kamado. It's not a problem, guys. It's not it's not like that. It's
What would give them that thought that it's not good to cook fish in a ceramic Kamado?
I'm guessing it's the same thing they think about when they think about using starter fluid on charcoal in a ceramic Kamado. They think the smell will impregnate the grill and it will taint their food and make their food smell like fish from here till the end of time. It's just not true.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys a really, really fabulous recipe for fish because I
Mhm.
make some incredible fish. Okay. So
This is
here
gonna be
is
pretty.
Anya's fish. All right. So I do fish two ways. I do fish
Mhm.
sweet and I do fish savory. So
Mhm.
if you want to do the sweet fish, just go out and get the Swedish fish. You'll find it on the candy aisle. Just open the bag, pour it into a lovely glass dish, and serve. You can serve it cold or at room temperature. Now, for my savory fish, I'll go and look on the cracker aisle and pick out the
Pepperidge
goldfish
Farm.
cracker
Mhm.
flavor
Yeah.
that I'm feeling,
Okay.
and I'll
I
put
hear
that
you.
out. So that's
Why did I know this was coming?
Yeah. I knew it.
Uh-oh, what happened, John?
John dropped out.
John left the building.
Yeah, he was just like,
Norm.
"Holy cow!" He says,
Yeah.
"No, my wife and her crazy fishing."
I jumped right out of here. You see that?
Yeah, he was like, "Peace out, y'all."
Yeah.
Norm, all you do to seal the wood is use the mineral oil, and like I say, it's a buffed in mineral oil. Um, you know, use 9 pads and go at it, and say by the time you're done, it's got almost a mirror shine on it. John will tell you that charcuterie board that I made for him, it's got
Yeah.
a nice shine to it.
I'll tell you something else about mineral oil. You can go to the pharmacy section at Walmart and buy mineral oil, and it's the exact same mineral
Yep.
oil that's in the cutting board uh, mineral oil bottles, and it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else on that. I'm so glad you
No,
went that way.
no, mineral oil is mineral oil, no matter what bottle it's in.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to admit, there's a product that I like. There's two products that I like that are both John Boos products. I
Yeah.
like the John Boos mystery oil or whatever they call that because it's mineral oil, but it's got beeswax in it. And the Boost board paste has beeswax in it as well. And it that stuff is the best stuff for your cutting boards I've ever used.
I've used Marvel Mystery Oil a lot. I highly recommend that for our automotive issues. Man, I had this one car. Oh my God, let me tell you about rebuilt carburetors. Thank God for the Marvel Mystery Oil.
Yeah, that
This,
stuff is good.
yeah, and I've got this huge bottle of. This is a 32-ounce bottle, and I'm about halfway through that one. But it's ingredients. To see if it says on here. It might not even say. But this is more than just mineral oil.
Mineral oil and beeswax, I think, isn't it?
I don't think this one actually says what's in it, but this is the board cream. It says natural unbleached beeswax and food grade mineral oil. This is like a paste, and this is something I like to put on the board after I've put oil on it, and you just have to use just a little bit of this because you have to try to buff it all off when you're done. But those are the two.
I need to try that stuff the next time I do one on buffing, see what it does.
Yeah, I like it. It's and you can get both of these on Amazon.
So Norm, I have a question. Is it really like oil from walrus? Did they like go capture a walrus and extract the oil, or is it just called that?
I don't have any idea. I'm not familiar with it, but I do like this booze. And the booze oil, the booze mystery oil, is not really inexpensive, but I get good results with it.
The answer is no, that it is just a name brand.
The brand name.
But I was
Okay.
really curious about that because you hear about like whale oil and like I think seals have oil too.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, wonder if walruses.
Well, they use it for their lanterns.
Yeah.
But
All
anyway,
right.
Norman,
Well,
on that buffing, Rockler's has those pads. You go to Rockler online, and it's a $15 set for 9 pads. I say from 1,200 to 15,000, and you do 9 strokes horizontal, 9 strokes vertical. Go to the next pad, 9 strokes horizontal, 9 strokes vertical. So it's a lot of sanding, or a lot of buffing, I should say, not necessarily sanding, because you're not sanding when you get that high up.
That's pretty cool.
all righty. Well, I think we're going to wrap things up here. I'm tired. I'm still mad that my video project this week is in the garbage can now.
John, the video was fine. It was the execution.
Well, I'm
There's
just
nothing
going to
wrong
say,
with the video.
it may not been the most beautiful pizza I'd ever seen, but damn, it tasted really good. So
I thought
it has it where it
I mean,
counts.
how do you start with the round pizza and you pull it out and it's now a square pizza?
Well, I made mine round. Mine
Because
was
pie
round.
or square, Jeff.
Jeff, the funny thing is I was able to I scooped that pizza up off of my work surface with that aluminum perforated pizza peel. It just didn't come off as easy as it went on.
Let me ask you
That
a
blew
question. How long was it on the peel before you tried to launch it?
a minute and a half.
Sometimes that's too long. I mean, when you got pizza dough that thin, with if you don't put the mixture of flour and cornmeal, that thing will stick to your peel big time.
Yep. Well, we'll see. I may put the thin crust down the line and do a different pizza for my first pizza video. We'll see.
Because that's what happened to me. I mean, I went and launched that pizza, and I went to pull it, and it just folded up and rolled up, and all the guts went all over the deck,
Yeah.
off the back of the oven. I just put in a bunch of wood and burned the hell out of it.
I do know one thing. It's a lot easier to launch a pizza into an alpha oven than it is to launch onto a pizza stone on a Kamado Joe.
Oh, definitely.
You've got a 15-inch diameter target on the Kamado Joe, and you've got a lot larger deck on the alpha. So, all right, Guys, I appreciate y'all hanging with us tonight. We'll be back next Thursday. Uh, there's going to be one. There's going to be one Thursday night this month where we don't do a live stream. I'm going to have to take. I'm going to be taking a Thursday off closer to the end of the month. I've got some family business I've got to take care of on a Thursday, and it's not likely that I'm going to be able to get a live stream done on that day. I'll give you more. Uh, I can't remember the date exactly, but I'm wanting to say that it's on the 27th. If the 27th falls on a, or the 26th, I'm going to have to look.
Hang on,
I've
I've
got
got my calendar up.
um, my mom is having some shoulder. She's having a shoulder replacement, and I'm going to be tied up with that all day that day. So I'm probably not going to be able to get
Maybe
a
the
live stream.
26th.
It might be, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, John, we all know you got to take care of Mama first and foremost.
Yeah, I've mom wants me to go with her, and that's since it's not a work day, I'm going to this should if everything goes smoothly, this should be a day surgery. We're going to take her down. She'll get it done, and she'll come home the same day, which is what our game plan is. So we will, but I don't think I'm going to try to do a live stream that day. So
I'll do the live stream instead. No, that
we'll let Tanya do it.
really fun.
Tanya and Jeff show.
Tanya and Jeff can do it, but I'm probably not. So maybe I'll be an obnoxious commenter. How about that?
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next Thursday.
All right.